Hi everyone, welcome to another Ecommerce Espresso. My name is Zachary, I'm from LoyaltyLion, Marketing Ops Lead here. This is Ecommerce Espresso, the webinar that's shorter than your coffee break, our guest, which is Max Imlefd from ShipStation. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Max, and a little bit about ShipStation?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Zach. So my name is Max Imlefd. I'm the UK sales manager at ShipStation. For those of you who don't know who we are, we're a multi-channel, multi-carrier order and delivery management platform, working with any size retailers to help them kind of streamline their order management and delivery processes.
Amazing. Thanks so much. It's funny, when I saw that I was going to be hosting this one with you, I was like, ShipStation, I know them from the ecosystem, but when was the last time I saw like a ShipStation ad? And it was like, oh yeah, like I see these great ads on YouTube for ShipStation from some people I subscribe to on there. And I was like, oh, copies of it so good. You guys are everywhere. It's really, really good to be chatting to.
Yeah, YouTube and podcasts and some TV stuff over in the US as well. So we're trying to get out there. So good to hear that you've heard of us already.
Of course. Well, why don't we jump in with our first question, which is internationalization. It's the natural step for e-commerce businesses when they reach a certain size. What do merchants need to think about in order to successfully retain customers in multiple markets?
Yeah, so internationalization, there's so many facets to it. There's a hell of a lot to think about once you feel like you conquered the domestic market, and then it, as you say, it's kind of the natural next step. For me and at ShipStation, I would say two main things are about building trust with the retailers, with the customers, as a retailer, and then making sure that your delivery setup is as robust and kind of transparent, well communicated as possible. So kind of on the trust side, as you look to start selling in markets, there's obviously a huge opportunity to get new customers and then retain them. By the time you've gone into the market, you've probably spent money on social media, SEO, and any kind of other activities to build the brand awareness in a new market. So it's really an investment that needs to pay off. So through the journey on your site, there's lots of ways to build trust with security certificates, reviews, and loyalty programs that are essential to show a new, potentially hesitant customer that you're a brand or website that they can trust to get the product to them when you say that you're going to. Ultimately, that's kind of the best way to build trust and retain a customer, is to get the order to them when you say you're going to get it to them. In reality, this kind of goes the same for both domestic and international. But if you're trying to break into a new market, there's every chance that you're competing with domestic brands offering cheaper and quicker delivery options. So whatever your USP is, you need to ensure that you're giving the customer an experience to remember for the right reasons. Yeah,
of course, it's something that, as you nicely mentioned, that there's all parts of that customer journey where customers are looking for those trust signals. It used to be it was enough just to have like the MasterCard and Visa logos on your checkout. People are like, oh, you're super trustworthy. But it's what you were saying there about breaking into those new markets, and especially markets that you could service with your product and with your delivery, but using language and making sure that it's almost immediately scannable, like, oh, you're firmly in my market. You're not just like making a half-hearted attempt to service me as a customer in this market. Like, I feel comfortable, it's the right currency, it's carriers that I recognize, it's timelines that make sense to me. People kind of get scared off by that, like, what do you mean 2 to 4 weeks? How far away are you exactly? Those kinds of things. Even if it's tracking details that people recognize from carriers that they know are in their region, they like this as terrific trust signals there. And I'm glad you called out loyalty points and loyalty programs as well. A good way to appease an unhappy customer maybe, or to help a customer feel like they can trust the brand when they get that instant reward. Definitely. Perfect. Well, why don't we move on to our second question, which is we're going to head into the top tips section. What are your top tips for merchants preparing for an increased order volume during, we've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up, where, I hate to say it, but we're heading into Christmas. I already saw Christmas branded chips and crisps on around M&S the other day. So how can merchants prep for increased order volume from a shipping perspective?
Yeah, you really know it's coming. I think I even saw an ad for the M&S like glittery gin earlier today.
Oh no, I think I've still got some from last year.
Definitely. I know. So obviously upcoming Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas. It's crazy for retail, crazy for kind of for e-commerce. And there's a lot that we can kind of learn from the last year, last 18 months of COVID, where things have kind of been forced to go online. My kind of three things I would say from a delivery side is about having your delivery options and schedule kind of communicated really clearly. This goes kind of on the internationalization point as well, but domestically, like you need to really be kind of getting your timelines, getting your options across to the customer really, really well. And then there's a point around workflow, getting that in place as early as possible, and then kind of limiting friction on the checkout as well. Kind of once you've got the customer to that point, you don't want to give them any reasons to go elsewhere. On the kind of delivery point, we did a survey middle of last year that found that 83% of consumers are less likely to repurchase from a retailer after a bad delivery experience.
Wow, that many.
Yeah, it's really bad sometimes. I mean, I've been guilty of it when a package has turned up late, it's damaged, it's not turned up at all. I've always thought, I know that's been a terrible experience from the retailer, but ultimately customers aren't kind of separating the carrier experience from the retailer. There's extra strain put on carriers throughout the festive season, throughout Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So it's really important to ensure that anything that is in your control is well prepared and proactively managed as possible.
You just reminded me of this, like this time last year, a little bit, just before Christmas, and I one of the many online beer retailers, beer merchants, and I was like, oh, they've got these brilliant beer advent calendars. I'm going to get myself one, and they're in high demand. And it was getting delivered on a Saturday, and I was like, all right, well I've got. And the carrier was like, here's your delivery window. It's going to come in these like 3 hours. I was like, great, got time. Went for a walk, and then I got a ping, and it was like, hey, you're next on the queue. I was like, that's a bit early. And so I'll start heading home. I'm still like 15 minutes away from home. I'm like, he's not. Like, they're not going to just like, I'm in an apartment building, like on a main road. They're not just going to leave it at the door. Surely not. Like, it's a big box with, 12 beers in it, or 24 beers in it, 25 beers in it, however many, good enough for one boy. And lo and behold, round the corner, and there it is, my super expensive box of beer just sitting there on the street. And, because we're in the e-commerce world, we can separate the carrier experience from the merchant experience. But that was the first thing I did. I got in touch with the merchant with a sour taste in my mouth, and I was like, "This isn't a great experience." I would look at either changing your carrier or changing your comms or something like that, because it's coming back to around that time of year for me again, and I have to say I'm looking somewhere else, because you just don't know.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the last touch point that a customer has with the retailer, and as you say, it can really damage it. But it's easy enough to manage if you're well prepared. There's no kind of it's never too early and never too late to kind of look at changing your carrier to one that will suit your needs. That goes the same for all of these things around delivery options, making sure that it's right for that customer, right for your customers, and your workflow as well. Kind of, if we look at the last 18 months or so, is really highlighted the impact that unexpected spikes in demand can have on businesses. But Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas isn't unexpected. We know when it's coming. We know when the peak.
That's a good point.
We're coming. It's the same. It's literally the same time every year. We had loads of clients last year kind of coming to us because they simply didn't have the right processes or workflows in place to cope with going from 100 orders to 1,000 orders a week.
What kind of stuff do you see? Like, what kind of what are the, and this is an unplanned question, but maybe not common mistakes, but one of those, like, what should people be thinking about then when people, hopefully lots of retailers and lots of merchants will go from 100 orders to 1,000 orders in this period. What are some of the stuff they should be thinking about right now?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing for us is manual processes that will work when you're doing 10, 20, 100 orders a day or a week, but they don't realize how much time that's actually taking on scale. So even though it might not seem like you need to automate any of those processes at the moment, or you need to kind of do what we do and condense different dashboards and different accounts into one place. When you get those 1,000 orders, things can really go down the pan, and you lose things as human error as people get under more pressure. And kind of that's where COVID was kind of a blessing in disguise for a lot of retailers that didn't realize that actually it's March and I'm being hammered by all these orders. My warehouse staff can't do it. There's errors, there's things going wrong. We can't proactively manage the customer experience. How are we going to cope with Christmas?
Yeah, of course.
So kind of it's never too early to look internally, see if you've got any manual processes, see if there's any things that are taking longer than they should be, because when you scale up, it's going to be real difficult.
Yeah, that's a great point. Look at your current processes now and go, how long is this actually taking? How many steps? That's very operations management way of thinking about it. Like, how many actual tasks are involved in getting this order out the door? And I like what you said there about it's never too early, or you're never too small to start thinking about automating those kinds of things with something like ShipStation, for example. We say similar things about loyalty programs. It's the best time to start thinking about that stuff is now. Start prepping it, like, how can you improve with automated tools? And going through that process of thinking about that will inevitably, you'll find some efficiencies, even if you already think you're pretty efficient. But it's not something that these busy sales spikes shouldn't be less about like coping and like getting through them, because how can you guarantee a great experience for your customers if you're like really under the pressure, under the hammer, worrying about a million things, when you could hand off some of that worry to some digital platforms, that kind of thing.
And we get like a huge spike after Christmas. People coming to us saying, "Oh, I've now realised that manual process that I was doing before, or the time it was taking to do this thing was just it screwed us over at Christmas because we couldn't cope with it." And Christmas is more, I'd say, arguably more challenging than any other holiday, because there's a deadline to it. So if you're not getting stuff out to people by 23rd, 22nd, depending on whatever the carrier deadlines are, then that's that customer's Christmas potentially ruined.
That's a way more negative experience, isn't it? That's compounded. Yeah. It's not just the normal, like, well, it didn't come in the 3 weeks, it came in 4, it didn't come in 2 business days, it came in a week or 2. This is, you missed my emotional and personal deadline too.
Yeah. And there's obviously, we can fall back and say that the customers should be ordering sooner. But if you've told them that the 22nd is the last day that they can order, then you've made that commitment. May not be a legally standing commitment, but it's still a commitment that can impact that customer's loyalty and what they're saying to their friends, their family that haven't got that present.
It's another trust signal, as you said at the beginning, right? So something you mentioned there that I'd love to go into a little bit more detail on is limiting friction at the checkout. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we've obviously talked about the fun back end part of a business, which definitely isn't kind of the coolest thing to be looking at every day, but it's super important. But in terms of kind of what you can be doing on the front end of the site, there's loads of really cool plugins, as I've said, around trust. But when you get to the checkout, consumers are shopping around a lot more at the moment. That they're more confident buying online. There's more retailers online. They want to be helping the small local businesses instead of going to bigger marketplaces. Won't mention names. So the confidence is sky high. So once they've made that decision to purchase from you, the last thing they want are any reasons to not make that purchase. So removing friction points on the checkout is super important. The more you make people do, the more likely you are to lose them. Any distractions on the checkout could be a deciding factor. I used to work at an on-site personalization company that one of their features was pop-ups, and the hard and fast rule was then nothing on the checkout, no distractions on the checkout. The stored addresses, card details make that process a lot more straightforward. Payments, Apple Pay, PayPal, make it straightforward. Make the delivery options concise at that point as well. And then A/B test what you think is crucial to maybe a blocker for some consumers. So test different options. Again, sooner the better, because you don't want to be doing that the week before Christmas or before Black Friday. You should only really be collecting the absolute essentials on the checkout. Anything else can really be done elsewhere, ideally after they paid you. So
Yes.
it's super important to try and slim that down.
Yeah, and then there's other opportunities to gather that data, as you said, after they're paid, after the order's gone through. You can use your loyalty program to incentivize that other information you might need, and to come back all the way back around to the internationalization question as well. There's some fields they're going to be super important to some markets, but others, I've definitely had that in previous roles where we've moved our e-commerce channel to a new market, and it's like, wow, why is our tax code number still coming? Like, why are we asking for a tax code in this market when we don't need to anymore? And people will start pinging you on chat and being like, why do you need this piece of information? Or that if it's that, even culturally, sometimes it might be phone number or certain parts of address. Have you got enough address fields? All of those kinds of things. Yeah, I mean, even down to postcode, right? You need to think about all of that stuff as you're moving into new markets. And I know that the good thing about the e-commerce platforms that exist these days will help facilitate all of that. But as you said, A/B testing the information that's crucial to your specific journey as a merchant, and the journey, the best journey you could have for your consumer and for your customer. I love the idea of A/B testing in the checkout. I don't think we see a lot of that, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, and similar with the kind of the rates that or not rates, like the delivery options and rates that you're offering in international markets. It's super easy and lazy to just get the rate table from your carrier, stick that on the checkout, and say, oh, if you're buying from Estonia, it's this much. But there's that's such a huge barrier to a lot of people. I generally kind of avoid having those rate tables on anywhere near the checkout, and accept that some more remote countries you'll probably lose money on shipping, but it'd be made up for in your domestic shipping charges if you can really streamline that together, or in your more kind of popular destinations, or if necessary can be absorbed into margin, again depending on what you're selling. I think that again you need to really look at it individually depending on the rates you've got, the impact on your margin, but just make it clear, make it concise, make it transparent, and give the customers the options that they want, not what you think they want. So again, potentially A/B testing on that, getting feedback from customers, using loyalty programs to understand what they actually want from their delivery options, and keep it straightforward for them.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I really like the feedback point as well, which that leads us to our last question, which is how can the delivery experience positively and sometimes negatively affect customer loyalty? And especially when you hear we all want positive reviews or positive feedback, but wrapped in this is that the more constructive negative feedback that we'll get from customers sometimes. So tell us a little bit about that delivery experience and its impact on loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, we've both given examples of kind of where the delivery experience hasn't met up to our expectations. It's the last touch point a customer has with a retailer, so it can really be make or break for the loyalty of that customer for any kind of lifetime value. By the time they purchase your product, all the cool front end things that you paid for, all the money that you spent on acquiring that customer, SEO, PPC, email campaigns, and all of the expensive plugins that you've got have paid off. So the delivery experience is arguably the most important part of the journey, as it's the deciding factor as to whether they come back again and again. The majority of consumers are less likely to purchase from a retailer again after a bad experience. Same study we did last year, we did this year again, and it's the same thing kind of reigns true. I don't think that's really going to change. I definitely blame the retailer in the past when something hasn't turned up when I've been told it will. But the retailers I've stuck with are the ones that have either had a robust and transparent delivery setup, or the ones that have reacted to any adverse situations. As I said, Christmas is really challenging. There's the hard deadline for it. But if you're ahead of it, if you're on top of your customer service, you front up to any issues, and you can communicate those options, timelines, costs, and keep the customer informed, then it's a huge springboard to ensure you've got a loyal customer at that point.
Yeah, you've got an opportunity to deliver a terrific experience if you do nail all the targets, and that customer knows in any high pressure situation they can come back to you and that you'll deliver. And if something does happen to go wrong, sometimes it is on the carrier side, or something can go wrong in the process. That will happen, especially in high volume scenarios, that there is an opportunity there to turn a negative experience into a really positive one. And if you, as you said, be transparent front up and try to find a really good solution that will win back that customer, you can often you can forge a nice, deep and strong relationship with that customer, having come through something upsetting together.
100%. If you can turn that bad review, that bad experience around, then it really kind of it's a great win for you as a company, and a fantastic experience for them as well. Yeah,
I had one recently from unnamed sports manufacturer and retailer where an order just got trapped in. It was probably post-Brexit related, but it was just trapped in a warehouse across Europe somewhere. And I'm checking the updates every few days, and they'd said up front, like, we're having issues with orders. It might take up to 8 weeks, but by like week 12, where I was a bit like, you haven't updated me, and it says just like returned in customs, from the independent tracking details, and then all I got was a very curt response from their success team that was like, "Yep, we've refunded your order." And that's all. It wasn't like, oh, we could send you replacements out, or like try again, or here is this. It was just that's again, it's just a relationship with that retailer now where I'm just like, well, how could I trust that situation, And so taking that feedback and actually doing something with it, because they had an opportunity there to get in front of it, but they didn't, which is always unfortunate.
Yeah, it can be tough. I mean, it kind of haven't really touched on it, but the customs issues with going international in the post-Brexit world that we live in is just another thing to consider. But as long as you're communicating that scenario happens frequently, where something is stuck in customs, documents weren't filled in correctly, whatever it is, whatever reason. But it's communication. That's what could have saved that situation.
Exactly.
And kept you and get you going back and trusting them as an international retailer. So
it comes back to what you're saying about manual processes too, right? If you know your own processes really well and you're getting good feedback, you can, and if you know that that's not arduous but time consuming or more steps, if you're in front of that through your before you come into high volume periods, you can make changes to guarantee a better experience. It's funny, when you were mentioning research, we just put out a bunch of research and a nice new research book and paper and report around discounting and the kind of the race to the bottom, and whether that's having a negative impact on loyalty. And we found that 81% of customers feel really positively about brands that offer free shipping or discounted shipping, and the opportunity not just all the time to offer free shipping, because as you said, as you move into new markets, it can be a little bit costly. You might set some barriers around minimum order value, that kind of thing, before you have free shipping. But even discounted shipping as something that you might be able to find a little bit of a different way to supply value outside of just discounting your product through this period, is something that can, again, build loyalty, help build trust, and feel like customers get a little bit of extra value for nothing, really, which is always nice.
Definitely. The free shipping at threshold thing, I'd definitely recommend, as it's kind of your two or three options: express shipping next day, whatever it is, and free shipping at a threshold. They should be kind of the bare minimum when you're going internationally. Again, something that you need to look at yourself. If you're selling something for a $5, you can't really eat into that margin. But for certain goods, setting that threshold, I think is definitely recommended. Yeah,
of course. Well, unfortunately, Max, that's all we've got time for. That's going to bring us to the end. It has. Max, big thank you for coming on the show. And if anybody has any questions for Max or ShipStation or LoyaltyLion, just tweet at us with the hashtag Ecommerce Espresso. That's at LoyaltyLion HQ. Look, even if you just tagged anything with Ecommerce Espresso, we're going to see it. We're watching it like a hawk. So, and I'm sure Max is too. Max, you got anything else you'd like to say before we finish up?
No, that's everything. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. Thanks so much.